Hey, what's up, gamers? And this time it's a top 5 list, and count it, top 5, and a few honorable mentions thrown in there before number 1. So, yes, this topic is about arcade games. Arcade games, you're used to them, fighting games, platforming games, beat 'em up games, the works, the usual stuff, and most of the time they find their way onto a home console. And very rarely are they actually as good or superior to their arcade counterpart, but that's not what this list is obviously talking about. This list is talking about the best ones. The ones that usually are close to their arcade counterpart, in other words good, or I should say great, in other words, or in some terms even superior. Yeah. So, keep in mind, this list has to be arcade to home console, as in most of the time old school console, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, so forth. So that means Xbox Live and PlayStation Network versions don't count because, well, that's just unfair. So, let's get to it. Number 5, Super Street Fighter 2. Personally, I prefer the Super Nintendo version when it comes to fighting games because, well, I didn't actually, because obviously the Super Nintendo's primary controller comes with all the buttons you need. With the Sega Genesis's primary controller, unless you buy the one with the extra buttons, well, it makes it a lot harder to play a fighting game. And keep in mind, people, this is strictly opinion-based, okay? So don't go apeshit if you don't agree with me on this list, okay? But that's just my opinion. I love the whole Street Fighter series, but yeah, I love Super Street Fighter 2. For one thing, you can play as all the extra characters, including M. Bison himself, and there's just so much, great stuff to this game. It's awesome. I know the Street Fighter series is huge, but this is personally my favorite one. Not that I hate the others. So, that said, it's awesome. Number 4, Mortal Kombat. Which one? I'd say number 2, on Super Nintendo personally, once again. This is where I favor the Super Nintendo. Not because I'm putting down the Sega Genesis once again, and not because I don't like the first one. The first one, obviously in the arcade, had blood and everything. The Super Nintendo, when it got ported to that console, the first one that is, it didn't have the blood. They took it out and wimped out. Now with the sequel, on the other hand, they brought the blood back. They said, enough bullshitting around, you can't wimp out. Because after all, Sega Genesis, they brought the blood in with the first Mortal Kombat if you had the code, which pretty much most people would nowadays if you still have it. But this is why this one's a lot better. It runs smoother, there's more characters, the fatalities are awesome. I mean, it's just gruesome. Now, I'm not trying to put the third one down. It was more of a mixed bag, but I think with the absence of my two favorite characters, Scorpion and a lot of other ones like Baraka and Sub-Zero, everything altered. I mean, the pit fatalities were cool in that one, but come on, this one was just awesome. With the fatalities, Scorpion and everything, it was just cool. Blood and everything. And why I choose the Super Nintendo version this time around? Let me think, because same reason I choose the Super Nintendo version of Super Street Fighter 2. Well, yeah, because the primary controller, once again, has all the buttons you need to play this game. Compared to the primary controller that came with the Sega Genesis, well, it's just not enough. You have to press start to block. That's a pain in the ass right there. But, yeah. It's gruesome and awesome. Number 3. Double Dragon 2. Yeah, obviously this one is inferior to its arcade counterpart, just like the first game is, but unlike the first game, this one actually has a 2-player co-op mode. Yeah, why didn't the first one have it? I have no idea, but I love the first one. It's hard as hell once you get to the third stage, and yeah, this one has its hard points as well with the platform jumping, but it's still a fun game, and especially is more fun with a second player. And why, may I ask, it didn't happen in the first one? Once again, I don't know. It's on the same console. It's not like it wasn't capable, but this one's fun as well as the first one. But the third one, I wouldn't even bother unless you love challenging yourself to the death. I mean, one life, no continues? Come on. Number 2, Contra. Which one? Well, not that the sequels are bad, but I personally favor this one as my favorite. And why this never ever saw the light of day on a virtual console of any of the consoles, 3DS, Wii, Wii U, I don't know why. But this one has to be my favorite. And for some reason, yeah, and most people agree with me on this one, it's actually better than the arcade counterpart. Yeah. I mean, yes, you can download the arcade version, of course, on Xbox Live, And of course, you can get the Nami pack for DS, and of course the one for Xbox 360, but screw that. I mean, if you can manage to come across this version on NES, this was the version to play. And of course, it's also available as an unlockable if you beat the challenges, but of course also requires beating the whole game, no matter which difficulty, which pretty much most difficulties is still hard as hell on easy mode on Contra 4 for the DS. It's a blast to still play. I mean, the spread guns, the lasers, well, actually I hate the lasers, most people do, but everything about this game was just awesome. Going out and alien hunting. Yeah, I mean, shooting the hell out of aliens, and if you can't do it, like Bill Paxton's character says on Alien, it's game over, man. It's game over. Yeah, it's freaking awesome. Now, before I get to number one, here's a few honorable mentions. Pretty much any game made by Namco. Pac-Man, Dig Dug, Pole Position, you name it, the classics. Pretty much available on any Namco museum, which has pretty much been released over and over to death on every single console, handheld and home console, and all of these arranged versions and stuff, but I stick with the original classics. Not that the arranged versions are bad or anything, but yeah, they're pretty good, especially after Atari failed to do it right, but that's a primary console. Once Nintendo did it, the first NES console did it, they did it right. Galaga and all the classics.
Crazy Taxi, of course, where it all started on the Sega Dreamcast, being that it is a Sega-branded product game, as well as the PS2 version, which I still have in my possession.
And the PSP version, Catch a Ride, is pretty good too, I would say. And there's a GameCube port and, well, many more. I wouldn't go with the Game Boy Advance port. Stay away from that one. That one's not worth it. As well as Killer Instinct on Super Nintendo. It's pretty good, but it's a different fighting game compared to Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. If you're not good at combo moves, which I'm pretty much not, even though the graphics and everything are really cool. I mean, you got the skeleton from Jason and the Argonauts and the screenshots and pit fatalities, or I don't think they call them fatalities, but it's cool, but I suck at combo moves. You gotta be good at those to enjoy this and be good at this game, but otherwise, it's a pretty good port by Rare. It's pretty gruesome. And now the number one best arcade to home console counterpart. What else? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Turtles in Time. Oh yeah. The fourth game and the best out of the whole series, and pretty much the best one ever made on a home console. Yeah. Super Nintendo one, that is. Of course, there's also Hyperstone Heist on Sega Genesis, but come on, you can't beat this version out. It's got the best graphics, best sound effects, the punching, the fighting, and being able to toss enemies, Foot Clan that is, back and forth and throwing them into the screen. The boss fights are as fun as ever. It's actually, like Contra, again, better than its arcade counterpart, if I dare say so myself. I mean, the music is just some of the best I've heard. Any fighting game fan would enjoy the living hell out of this one. I mean, it's one of the best. I could beat this so many times. I could pop this one at any time and still enjoy it, even to today. In fact, as you know, I still have it in my possession, and it is, as Smeagol would say, my precious. Yeah. So, if you can manage to get your hands on it, this is the one you want. Don't bother with Turtles in Time reshelled on Xbox 360 or PS Network. In fact, you can't anymore since they took it down, thank the Lord, because that was a horribly butchered port anyway. This is the one you want, not that one. Believe me. Get a Super Nintendo, do whatever you can, get this version, because trust me, they're probably never going to release this on Wii or 3DS's Virtual Console. Believe me, people. Get it while you can, it's still good. And it's still fun to even this day. All I can say to it is, cowabunga. So, till next time, happy gaming.